So I hear there's a cold snap going on back in the mainland. That's too bad. Actually, we're experiencing something similar here in Hawaii. It's supposed to dip down to 71 tonight.
Yeah.
Bundle up.
Good morning, Sweet World, and welcome to the No Dunks Podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Monday, January 6th, 2025. I'm Jay Skeets here in the comfy confines of the Classic Factory. And next to me, it's the bearded one, my top shot hot boy, Trey Kirby. Hey-yo! Hey-yo! Over yonder, making the magic happen, super producer JD.
Hello.
There he is. And finally, joining us from an undisclosed location outside, it's Tass Mellis.
Who knows where I could be? What's going on, everybody? It's kind of a lovely, crisp day today.
It's not too bad, right now. I think it's like maybe 12, 13 degrees Celsius. That's like 55, I want to say, Fahrenheit. Yeah. Any wind,
No way.
Tass?
But it's a classic southern day where we might explore all four seasons, though. It was pretty cold to start. It might get down to 30 later on. And gusts up to 20 miles of wind. Luckily, though, I've got something very large beside me that's going to shield me from everything. I don't know if you guys know where it is, but it's helping me out. So just looking around. If I find anything, I'll throw them on camera here. But right now, it's pretty quiet.
There are a lot of
like
stray cats in your location.
Yeah,
so
right.
We're hoping an animal does come up to you and maybe.
Same.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
hope too. I hope that happens too. Let's get some excitement. Let's get some clicks.
So Tass is outside all week long because he's paying off his December Pick 'em loss, and we maybe did pick the right week because it's okay right now. The rain did stop. But it's supposed to get super cold later this week.
Boy, yeah.
And they're still calling for snow here in Atlanta, which is very rare. So,
Yes.
Tass, I mean, he's ready. Yeah, he's got the mittens on.
Luckily, I'm from Canada. I got my Canada mittens on. But yeah, the meteorologists were correct. I was surprised 10 days ago. I was a little worried. It was December. How cold is it going to be? I was looking at the weather. And meteorologists were correct. It rained, and it's getting super cold this week. So we're going to have some fun here at the show.
Well, keep an eye on Tass's nose this week, I think. That's the key. Like, how red will it get from that cold streak we got coming up here? Okay, well, before we get into NBA weekend winners and losers, on Friday night, the Miami Heat suspended Jimmy Butler for 7 games for multiple instances of conduct detrimental to the team and announced they are now listening to offers. This just a week after team president Pat Riley said the team wouldn't trade Jimmy. So they swerved real quick here. 7-game suspension. Now the Players Association plans to file a grievance to dispute that punishment. So we'll see where that goes. But look, the news here, Tass, I'm going to start with you. Your take on this is obviously, Jimmy, get out of here. We're tired of your attitude. We don't maybe like how you're playing. Who knows what he's also doing off the floor. And we're going to try and trade you. Again, this happened after Friday's Drop podcast. What's your thoughts to the latest in the Jimmy saga?
Oh, I find the Heat's take pretty funny here. There's a guy here, he's not trying too hard. We just suspended him. But do you want him? Anybody can have. And the interesting part to me is who is actually going to try and make a deal for him. So it has to be a team that's extremely desperate to try and win right here and right now. And we talked about the Golden State Warriors on Friday, and the Wiggins thing is the most interesting part to me because I can see why it works on both sides, but also why you'd be reluctant on both sides. Andrew Wiggins is playing pretty well right now. He had an 18-point third quarter on Saturday. He's a bigger defender than Jimmy Butler. He needs to be out there guarding the other team's best player like he was a couple of years ago. And you'd lose that if you deal him, and he's excelling in his role. While the Heat, if they were to go get him, he's not going to be the same guy. He's really excelling in Golden State because they have this hierarchy and he's under it. It's not going to be the same in Miami. Also, he has a longer-term deal than Jimmy Butler. He's got an additional year of contract, so do you want that, or what are the Heat going after? Now, later on, we'll get to a Phoenix Suns potential offer, but really those are the two teams I'm looking for, and I don't really know if the Warriors are all hot on it, but maybe they are a little more hot on it because of Kuminga's injury, where he's going to be out for the next few weeks at least. So that's the interesting part. Are you going to go all in on Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond Green towards an old age, or keep Wiggins, who's 6 years younger than Jimmy Butler, and actually playing basketball. The whole thing with Jimmy is he didn't play last year in the playoffs. He's missing games, so that's the odd part, to get even older. But I don't know. The Phoenix Suns could be the team, because they've got an owner who's willing to take a chance. Who knows?
Yeah.
Those are the two teams I'm looking at.
Well, the problem with those two teams, at least from reports, The Athletic is saying the Warriors, they don't really want Jimmy Butler. Now, this could be like all posturing here to obviously drive down the asking price. Could be that. And then the Heat side of things, we're getting reports that they want nothing to do with Bradley Beal, because he would probably have to be the piece if the Suns were to make a move. So there is that. But what do you think here, TK?
Nobody wants anybody.
No.
My first thought, honestly, Skeets, was of Dwayne Dedman. He got mad. He was playing for the Miami Heat once upon a time. Got really upset during a game. Threw a Theragun onto the court. Weird stuff. Heat suspended him, traded him, never played for the team again. Jimmy Butler's never playing a game for the Miami Heat again.
I would agree.
So I don't know where he's going to end up. The Grizzlies are apparently kicking the tires, just like they were for Dorian Finney-Smith. Seems like they want to upgrade. I don't know how Jimmy Butler and Ja Morant fits together, but I like the grindiness. I like the dude they would bring together. It would be a weird team, certainly, but it does feel like the Jimmy Butler era done in Miami with the way things transpired, basically saying, I want out. They said, no, we're not trading you. He said, no, I really want out. And they said, okay, don't embarrass us. And when you try and embarrass Pat Riley, he says, no, you're sitting down. You're never playing for us again. And I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and even if he's still there after this 7-game suspension, I'm with you, TK. I think they'll have to just come to an agreement of like, okay, we'll keep paying you, but don't be around our squad while we try and move you. Though a lot of people also think this could happen soon here. Like, we might have an emergency podcast is what I'm getting at here for Jimmy Butler eventually getting traded. But when you fire up the trade machine, it is very difficult to find a deal that makes sense and actually just straight up works. There's so many factors at play here. One factor is this new collective bargaining agreement. It just makes the construction of trades very difficult for contending teams that are spending a lot of money, because Butler here, he makes nearly $49 million in salary. A nearly third of the teams in the league are not allowed to take back more salary in a trade. So that's already a problem. The Heat can't take back more salary in any deal. They're an apron team, so that's tough. And then, Tass, you touched on this. Okay, they're going to move off Jimmy Butler. You know, they're done. He's upset with them. They're not ever going to come to an agreement again and find joy in being together. But what are they identifying, the Miami Heat, as their motives here? Sam Vecini went through a great list of like, what is Miami trying to get back in a Jimmy Butler deal? Maximize future asset return? Maybe. Strictly open up flexibility in terms of your books? Maybe. Remain competitive now? I mean, the Heat are, not at the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference. Like, they're right in the mix. They still have talent on the team. So are they trying to stay competitive and not take a step back? Is it a combo of all three of those things? And that's interesting, Tass, of like what do they really want from a Jimmy Butler trade? Obviously just want to get rid of him because they don't want to be there. But is it assets? Is it staying competitive? I think that's the fascinating part here.
Yes, and there really isn't a piece in the NBA that is going to come back that's really going to help him all that much. We saw what happened in Jimmy Butler's first suspended game on Saturday. They got destroyed. And who is going to come and help him? I mentioned the Wiggins deal. I think Wiggins is probably the most talented guy that could be dealt, at least is able to be dealt, because Bradley Beal still has a no trade clause. Bradley Beal can literally say, no, I don't want to go there. And so I saw the Sam Vecini deal of going directly to Miami, but he has to say, yeah, I want to go there. I mean, is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. No. I went through the trade machine, and there's a 4-way deal that would get Bradley Beal to Brooklyn, where he is the air quotes, number one guy. Maybe
air quotes in Canadian mittens is very funny. Yes.
It is hilarious. He's the number one guy on an okay team. That would be my first inkling as to somewhere where he'd want to go if that's a 4-way deal.
Yeah.
But that basically means what would be coming back to Miami is Ben Simmons, an expiring deal where Miami is saying, we just want to get all the money off the books. Now, the Wiggins deal is a little more interesting. You could get, if you jump on the trade machine, you can get Wiggins, Brandon Podziemski as sort of your main parts, along with Moses Moody and Dennis Schroeder. 4 guys for 1, essentially, and Jimmy Butler going to Golden State. Or there's another 3-way deal where Wiggins and Kyle Anderson come back, and Dennis Schroeder has to get dealt to Detroit in a 3-way deal to get Jimmy to Miami. It's a big shrug. It's a big Andrew Wiggins going to a team where, again, as I said, the hierarchy in the locker room is just so different. It ain't going to be all that great. And that's why I brought up on Friday, I think they should just get in a room with Jimmy and just hope for the best with him. And I know it doesn't look that way.
That's the boat is
what is the better option?
Yeah.
What is the better option? I mean, is it getting Wiggins there to be okay? I mean, Wiggins is excelling in Golden State because he's the number 3 guy and he is just in a different environment. I just don't see it. I just don't see an option for Jimmy to be dealt. As we go through all of the options, do you want Bradley Beal? He ain't playing all that much. He's got a no-trade clause. Do you want Andrew Wiggins? He's obviously the most talented in his peak type of player, but it's a different environment there.
Yeah, Brian Windhorst said, quote, right now you're seeing a lot of teams testing just how low they might be able to buy Jimmy Butler for. That's facts. I mean, imagine the calls that Pat Riley and the Heat organization are getting right now. I'm sure they're pretty hilarious because Jimmy Butler, when he does play, is obviously still an elite talent. And the Heat are just in a tough position. They don't like their hand right now. So hopefully they need enough teams, TK, inquiring about Jimmy Butler and them saying, no, we've got a better deal from so-and-so, or we've got a 3rd team or a 4th team looped in and we like the assets we get back. Like, they're in no real, it's weird, they're in no real rush, really, because we still have a while till the trade deadline, but you know, you don't want this to linger too much. Like Taster said, they lost by 35 points to the Jazz. Has an impact on the rest of your team as well.
The main worry is that the longer you extend this, Jimmy Butler just does something else to submarine his trade value even more so, right? I guess he's trying to help it by first coming out and saying there's like 4 teams I want to go to, then come out and saying actually there's 29 teams I want to go to. So he's doing his part, but the longer they make him wait, we saw what happened in Minnesota. It's not good, and it's only going to make your team more stressful. So when you talk about do they want to stay competitive, do they want future flexibility or future assets, they're probably able to choose at the most 2, and maybe only 1, since Jimmy can be an expiring contract if he decides to decline his option. For the summer, the good thing is that staying competitive for the Miami Heat isn't that hard. Like, they've been a play-in team for basically 5 years. If you've got Bam and Tyler Hero, maybe you get back Wiggins and Kuminga, you're probably still a play-in team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Will Jimmy Butler be traded before Tas Melis comes inside? That's the question I'm asking the people right now.
I would say I hope not. I want to experience this cold. I want to be a meteorologist that's ready for the hurricane. It's just so fun, and it's going to get super cold. I will be having to wear these Canada mittens for days. Right now, it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest.
Yeah, you look comfortable.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here.
It's going to get worse, but I did hear Bill Simmons say on his football podcast today, this is happening this week, that Jimmy's being traded. He just sort of slipped it in there when he was talking to Cousin Sal.
Interesting.
Who? He didn't say who. He just said it's happening this week.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
What Cousin Sal say? Yeah, come on, Bill. Nobody cares. This week ain't the NFL season. Don't talk to me about basketball.
Similar to that, yes.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
Well, we're going to talk about basketball here. Let's get into some winners and losers of the NBA weekend. We usually do more winners than losers. TK, you get to start. Who's your big winner of the weekend?
The Kings are back! Oh, like the beam, baby. 2 wins over the weekend. They scored 138 against the Memphis Grizzlies on Friday. That's a big number. And then they smacked the Warriors 129-99 on Sunday without De'Aaron Fox. So they went monk mode. Malik Monk went for 26 points, 12 assists, 4 steals, got the defensive player of the game crown afterwards as well. The Kings looked awesome in this one, hit 19 threes, forced 22 turnovers. They were up big after the first quarter. Warriors came back a little bit. Steph Curry got a 4-point play. He was celebrating like crazy, and the Kings said, not in our faces yet again. They finished with 75 at the half, and the game was really over in this one. So 4 straight wins for the Kings, and they beat pretty good teams as well. The Mavericks, the Sixers, who are playing better, the Grizzlies, good team, and the Warriors, who are kind of in the same mix as the Kings right now. And Doug Christie's first 5 games, 4th in offense, 11th in defense, 5th in net rating. The ball moves. They shoot threes, hit 21 against the Grizzlies, 19 against the Warriors. You got Doug Christie out there almost fighting Draymond Green and Steve Kerr because of a hard screen, like literally making Domantas Sabonis laugh that he was going so overboard about this screen call. But it makes you think the Kings like playing for Doug Christie. He showed him the beam. First time Nobody else had ever done that.
They
Very
were like,
special.
We didn't even know if that was real. They took him up to the roof to see it in person. Yeah,
exactly. And then they're pulling off these wins, looking like a more cohesive team that's giving quite the effort. Maybe it's just the new coach bump.
That's what I was
but
wondering.
They lost their first game.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they won their next 4. I'll take it. They also got Devin Carter, the 13th pick in this year's draft. Played his first 2 games. Didn't do anything in his first one against Memphis, but 13 points, 7 boards, a couple assists, a steal, and a couple of threes against Golden State. At the very least, another player for the Kings in their depth chart. We're also seeing a lot more Keon Ellis. I know Tass probably warming up seeing this guy actually contributing to the Kings' win streak here. It is the Kings, so you look at their team and it's like, hey, they won 3 straight, then they lost 6 straight, then they won 4 straight. So this is probably dooming them, but I'm happy to see the Kings have regained their footing here.
Yeah, what do you think, Tass? Is this just a new coach bump here, or are you seeing some different things from lineups and players that Christie maybe is leaning into?
Well, it's definitely partly a new coach bump. I mean, they beat the Dallas Mavericks without Luka and Kyrie.
Yeah.
They beat the Sixers without Joel Embiid. That's part of it. But the Keon Ellis entry into the starting lineup is important. Now, he kind of just was starting because Keegan Murray was out and then De'Aaron Fox was out.
Yeah.
But I loved Keon Ellis starting last season. And I think he should be starting this season. If there's anybody on the Sacramento Kings that plays like Doug Christie played, it's that guy.
That's true.
He plays ridiculously hard defensively. He'll shoot the 3 a little bit. And this Devin Carter entry, I know Monte McNair runs their front office, said when he drafted Devin Carter, did you watch the NBA playoffs? We had a lot of Devin Carters out there.
Yeah.
Guys who work hard. It is like a Keon Ellis. Now, I just like the attitude. I like the attitude of those type of guys like Doug Christie played. They just need more of that. Just period. He'll be starting over Kevin Huerter, while De'Aaron Fox, DeMar, Sabonis, and Keegan Murray, I think, will start beside Keon, but I think he will continue to start. So I think that's a smart move for them.
All right, so the Kings get us started here with a winner of the weekend. Tass, what about you? Who do you have? You going player, team? What's your direction?
I'm going Detroit basketball. I think this team is looking so much better. They beat the Charlotte Hornets on Friday. Why am I talking about Detroit beating the Charlotte Hornets of all teams? Well, because in the second half, they allowed the Charlotte Hornets to score only 29 points, 17 and then 12 points in the third and fourth quarter. They couldn't score on consecutive possessions. The Detroit defense is almost a middle-of-the-pack defense. Like, that hasn't happened since Blake Griffin was playing there. That was a long time ago. They look more like it. Isaiah Stewart against the Charlotte Hornets had a couple mean blocks where Cody Martin lined up a dunk and Isaiah Stewart lined up the block and blocked him. It was beautiful stuff. Then he got a help block on Miles Bridges. We talked about role players on bad teams that could help out good teams last season, like Dallas was able to go get PJ Washington to help them and Daniel Gafford. And Trey said, sure, Isaiah Stewart's good, but he's got to play center. And he is playing center. For the first time in his career, he's a backup center. He's moved to the backup role, and he's played really good there. The defense looks all right. Then the second night, I wouldn't be talking about this Detroit Pistons team unless they got a win on that second night. And going into the second night of back-to-backs, they were 1-5 on the second night of back-to-backs, but they were able to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it started off beautifully. Rudy Gobert misses his first shot. Cade Cunningham takes the ball and goes in and drives on a fast break and dunks it. I mean, everybody on the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of let him do that. We'll get to the Minnesota Timberwolves and how much they stink, but Cade Cunningham just really set the tone. In that first quarter, then he went into the post. The post game is alive. Hit a hook shot, hit a shot inside against Jaden McDaniels, and then he got into the dribble game where he's going through his legs behind his back. He just had a great first quarter. Then he set up the passes, where he's setting up Malik Beasley, 23-point night, 3 assists from Cade Cunningham. That has been huge in Cade Cunningham's growth of the passing. Then he threw one off the backboard for Asar Thompson on a fast break and a dunk. There's a defender there. It doesn't matter. Cade throws it off the glass, and Asar Thompson throws it down. He had like 5 steals in this game, too. And that pass off the backboard is just a thing going on in the NBA. You want to dunk, just throw it off the backboard. But Cade, to get to his stats, I mean, he looked great. Despite Anthony Edwards' 53 points in this game, Cade Cunningham's 40 points kind of goes under the radar because of what Anthony Edwards did. But to drop 40, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds on just 29 shots, Cade is 24 points, 6.7 boards, 9.5 assists this season. The guy's going to the All-Star game. He is just leading it. And in the fourth quarter, again, the defense is important to me with this team. Ron Holland. I'm going to mention Ron Holland because he looked good. They were just a little hungrier. They are a team that is being led again by Cade Cunningham, and they want to get after it. Ron Holland had an 8-point fourth quarter. That guy should be in the dunk contest if they need somebody. He looks damn good. So overall, they're 8-3 in their last 11 games, and they're going to get to 500 tonight when they beat the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, he's calling it.
Yeah, they look good. They look good.
They look great. Yeah, absolutely. I think they've won 6 of 7. They're 17-18, which is like basically the same record as a lot of teams, like a game or two. The Bucks there, the Heat, the Hawks, the Pacers, the Pistons. Your Bulls maybe a little bit more back, but man, yeah, a play-in spot. Just playing in those games would be a huge win for the Detroit Pistons this season, and I'm with Tass. I'm thinking it's looking more and more likely that Cade Cunningham is a very deserving all-star selection when we get to that eventually.
He's been great, and he was awesome specifically against the Timberwolves. My favorite part of his game is his post-game. He's the rare guy that was like a big guy when he was younger and then eventually learned to handle the ball. So he's got like a hook shot despite being like a 6'6" point guard.
Yeah.
It's usually the other way around. They're like, oh, I was the sick point guard, and then suddenly I'm 6'10".
Like Anthony Davis or something
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
But Cade is the reverse of it, so he's got a hook. It's pretty cool. He was just dominant against the Timberwolves, getting any shot he wanted for him or for himself. The Timberwolves tried a lot of different defensive alignments, whether it be a high drop or a low drop. It didn't matter. If it was a guy on him, Cade would just be able to body him, get to the rim, and if he was sagging off like Gobert likes to do, the midi was there. So great stuff from Cade Cunningham, the veteranship that they're getting from Malik Beasley, 23 points, 6 threes in this one. Tobias Harris, 16 points, a couple of threes. Tim Hardaway Jr., he shot 6 of them. He only made 1, but at least he's shooting them.
That's right.
You got to respect it a little bit. The Pistons looked like the better team against the Timberwolves, and that's a team that went to the conference finals last year. Obviously, they've changed. We'll talk about them in the losers, no doubt about it. But Pistons took advantage of a poorly played game from Minnesota and basically ran them off the court, I thought.
Yeah. All right. So Kings and Pistons as winners of the weekend. Maybe surprising to some of you. This next team that I'm picking, though, as a winner of the weekend shouldn't be, because they're maybe the best team in the NBA. The Thunder, and especially their second half defense, gets a winner of the weekend. Huge weekend for OKC believers, right, when it comes to their title chances after they took down 2 East title favorites. And it felt like both games were the exact same. And it feels like the last 2 weeks, Thunder games have felt the exact same because they have turned in to the Counting Crows team. They're just hanging around. That's what they do in these games. They just keep hanging around. You should put them to bed. You should run up the score, and you can't. And they just stay around, and then they go on their run in the third or the fourth quarter. On Friday night, the Thunder held the Knicks, the NBA's third best offense, to 41 second-half points. They overcame a 14-point deficit. They win by 10. And the big hero in this game was Aaron Wiggins. He was the not this guy for OKC that night. He scored 15 of his 19 points in the final period. He could not miss. And Knicks went away from going to Karl Anthony Towns, I thought, a little bit too much, but they couldn't score. OKC gets that win. Then on Sunday afternoon, some of you joined us on playback, OKC again refused to sort of like let go of the rope. They didn't completely cave. They fell behind by double digits to the Boston Celtics, and then they outscored them 29-12 in the fourth quarter. So they held the number 2 offense in the league to just 27 total points. That sounds like a typo in the second half. And then Lou Dort was the real hero in this one, sort of like the guy that couldn't hit a shot for most of the game, went nuts in the fourth quarter. He scored 11 points. He made all 3 of his threes in the fourth. So, like, similar wins. And this is what they've done a lot over this now 15-game win streak. Tass, you want to give the air quotes in your mittens again there? Because
sure.
they, of course...
JD, can you catch me... rubbing the boogers off my mustache here because it's getting a little chilly.
Getting a little chillier here.
Yeah.
Because I put that in air quotes because it's their 15th straight win. Everybody knows they lost the NBA Cup final, but it doesn't count against their team record. So it's 15 straight regular season wins. Dumb. But man, the defense, Trey, just like no team puts more pressure on the ball than they do. They're obviously the youngest, probably the most athletic team in the league, and they're so deep that they just keep coming in waves, and I think they just like tire teams out. The Knicks especially was that case.
Yes.
Now, the Knicks lean into playing their main guys a lot of minutes. Mm-hmm. They ran out of gas. Whereas the wave of Thunder defensive players, missing Caruso, by the way, missing Chet Holmgren, by the way, which was really scary for the league, they just keep coming, and then those turnovers turn into easy points. And some similarities happen in the Celtics game, too.
That's exactly right. The Celtics made 8 shots and had 10 turnovers in the second half of this one, and they looked great in the first half, but I figured out why Mark Daigneault squints so much. The guy is observant. He never loses a coach's challenge, and he makes incredible adjustments at halftime. He gets in there, looking at the tape, getting real close in there, and he says, you know what? We gave up way too many layups in the second quarter. 12 for 14 from two-point range were the Celtics, and it felt like they would get a switch, dump it into Porzingis. They would even dump it into Luke Cornett sometimes. Yep. Horford was doing stuff in the second half. Those easy dump-ins just weren't there for Boston. The Thunder were still switching, but they were throwing a little bit more help inside, and the Celtics were then having to play from outside in. Their drive and kick game just wasn't the same. I guess if I'm a Celtics fan, I'm saying we're not shooting that bad.
Yeah.
It was 2:30 in the afternoon that the game happened, so you can slough it off, even though they've been struggling right now. But incredible stuff from the Thunder. I heard Tim McMahon say on the Hoop Collective today that the Thunder are 27-2 as long as they have a healthy 7-footer. It was 8-1 with Chet Holmgren, and then they're whatever the other math says. I don't know.
Yeah.
19-1, I guess, with Isaiah Hartenstein. They are awesome. They can force a turnover against anybody, and that's huge because they're not necessarily the greatest half-court offensive team, but they are probably the best at turning defense to offense.
Yeah, Tash, what did you see from OKC this weekend here?
Well, I just have to note Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's monstrous block in the fourth quarter because this game was
huge.
Super tight. It was extremely tight, but that block on Jason Tatum as it chased down and then he gets the score at the other end was massive. And how can you not get up to play for your leader if he, as a guard, from the outside gets back and blocks a shot like that, is doing that type of thing? Mantra stuff. You mentioned the wins against the Knicks and against Boston. They play on Cleveland on Wednesday that the league has flexed, so it's on national TV.
That's smart. Both teams are rested, too. They don't play until Wednesday night.
Yeah, both monstrous records, both atop their conferences, and ready to go. Can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, the Cavs have a 10-game win streak going right now, and they are winning every game by double digits. They've outscored their opponents by an average of 16.6 points per game over this 10-game win streak. So here come the Thunder with their 15-game win streak. And like I said, the Thunder just took down the number 3 best offense in the league in the Knicks, the number 2 best offense in the Celtics, and now we'll take on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have the number 1 best offense. So that is must-see TV there on Wednesday night. Let's keep it going, though. Another round of weekend winners.
Man, what a weekend we
had. I know.
It was a great weekend.
Yeah.
Because the Epic Duelsman has logged on to give a winner to Jokic versus Wemby. 2 classic matchups this weekend, and they both kind of bested each other. Friday in Denver on Friday. Nikola Jokic, 41 points on 36 shots, 18 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals. Bested by Wemby, 35 points, 18 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. Made so many plays down the stretch, including his steal, which I was surprised he got credit for the steal on this one, because Jokic posts him up. Nuggets are down 1. He's looking for the Sombor shuffle, and Wemby was going to block it.
Yeah.
He was going to send it back in his face, so Jokic tries to throw a cross-court pass. I think it was Vassell who ended up intercepting it. Maybe Wemby tipped it. I thought it should have went down as a block. Nonetheless, incredible play from that guy. Then Saturday in San Antonio, a day later, they flew from Denver to San Antonio to play the same game. Very weird. Wemby went for 20 points and 23 rebounds. That's a lot of roast beef. 3 assists, a steal, and 4 blocks. Jokic, 46 points on 35 shots, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, won it for him in overtime after missing the game winner at the end of regulation, but I think he scored 9 in OT, put the team on his back. NBA's YouTube has a 13-minute Jokic and Wemby battle it out video. I made my kids watch it today because this was a torch moment. This is like when LeBron James and Luka Doncic played in the first couple of years of Luka's career, and you're like, all right, LeBron, you're the best at what you do. And Luka plays like you, and he's doing the next thing. That's what's happening here because Jokic is the best player in the league, and Wemby is the next best player in the league. They're both centers. So far, they've played 6 times in their career. Jokic has scored 39 or more 4 times. He actually has to work at it. You'll never see more pump fakes from Jokic than playing against Wemby, but he's averaging 37, 11, and 9, 4 and 2. Wemby, for his part, 25, 15 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks in these 6 matchups. Zach Harper had a great write-up about Wemby. He's played 100 games, 101 now, including the Saturday game. Turned 21 years old on Saturday. 5 players had more points in their first 100 games. 9 players had more rebounds. 2 players had more blocks. 1 center had more assists. And 9 players had more three-pointers.
Oh, my God.
Not Steph Curry. Not Klay Thompson. They didn't have more threes than Victor Wembanyama, but other guys did.
You know what? This Wembanyama leveling up here very quickly, it adds actually an interesting wrinkle when you think about it to this trade deadline and Jimmy Butler trade rumors. and De'Aaron Fox trade rumors and maybe any other player of note that could like move the needle for a contending team. My point being, like, there could be a small window here, legit small window for some of these other teams before it's Wemby time and has the right team around him, and they're the ones always competing for championships. That's what it feels like.
Like the guy he just beat.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. But that was awesome, the Jokic versus Wemby. Now, neither of those games were on national television, I believe, right? I think those are League Pass games, both of them. I know, it's Friday, Saturday.
People hate centers, man.
That's it, right. Yeah. They won't buy their shoes and they won't watch their games, apparently. But, Tass, any thoughts on Jokic Wemby?
Yeah, there's a few things I liked from these games. In the first game, Wemby had a ball pushed up ahead of everybody. He got the ball, and he pumped so he could get Russell Westbrook to jump. And Russell Westbrook did jump and fouled him, and Wemby wouldn't talk to him after. And you saw Russ's face. What are you saying to me, man? I wish we could hear what Wemby did say to Russ, but it was odd because Wemby got what he wanted. He got a foul, but he didn't like the way Russ fouled him, I guess. The weird thing, as Trey mentioned, that they played in two different cities. I was confused by that. I had to look at the floor multiple times, but I also had to look at the Spurs City Edition jerseys. I love those blues, that baby blue. It's not a baby blue. I don't know what they've literally called it. I'm throwing up my air quotes again. But what is that blue? It's an awesome look. And yeah, just two great teams going at it. The Nuggets are so interesting, and that Jamal Murray didn't look like Jamal Murray in part of these games. He hasn't looked like himself. So what are the Nuggets going to do? Are they going to try and push for anybody to help them? But with the Nuggets and now with this new CBA, you got to trade a big contract back to go get a big player. And so somebody like Michael Porter would probably be the guy. But at the same time, these trades just don't seem like they're going to happen because that's a lot of money to take back. It's a lot of money to pay in luxury tax. So that's the questionable part here with the Nuggets. We're talking about Jokic in his freaking prime. He looks amazing. Great piece on The Athletic about how he's changed his shot form and how he's brought it closer to his body, and that's why he's shooting nearly 50% from three. This guy's a better three-point shooter, and I don't know if he can do it in the playoffs with the guys around him.
Tass, let's go to you here for your next and final winner of the weekend.
I'm going to the Los Angeles Clippers because Kawhi Leonard is back. I know people immediately say, okay, when's he getting injured? Fair. There's a line out there in Vegas. You can bet on the next game that Kawhi Leonard is going to miss because he gets injured. Go bet it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's not on our friends at BetMGM.
Okay, wow.
It's kind of hard to find, but go do it if you want. But I will say this about Kawhi. This is the first time that he sat out nearly half the season to start the season to get his knees ready. And I'm not a medicine expert, but maybe the medical
also
staff.
Also known as a doctor.
Yeah.
Or a medicine man.
Well, the medical staff in Los Angeles know more than I do. And they have obviously been working with him extremely slowly. But they've been working him behind the scenes because he has been practicing for a long period of time. And you could see it in the first 2 minutes of this game. He'd had a tough catch on a three-point shot, and then he had Zachary Risacher right in his face against the Atlanta Hawks on Saturday, and still Kawhi lined it up and hit that shot, and his teammates said, yeah, he's been doing that for a month in practice. So this is different for Kawhi, missing 34 games to start this season, and hopefully going to get this team going on the offensive end, because they're so good defensively. They're a top 5 defense now, and they're bringing back Kawhi Leonard, a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. So that's the interesting thing to me. I'm all in. I'm all in on this Clippers team, at least challenging for the top with the way they look. Because if you look at their defense, which is obviously ridiculously good, led by Jeff Van Gundy. Sometimes you forget that he's their defensive coordinator. A great line in the Athletic article about Kawhi was talking to Jeff Van Gundy. Hey, what are we doing on defense? Jeff Van Gundy said, "No one watches this shit more than me." Now in the article, the shit is bleeped out, but I have to include it because Jeff Van Gundy says no one watches them more. I know what we're doing. We're top 5 defense here. Now the offense, it's him, Harden, Norman Powell starting, and then it's going to be probably Derek Jones Jr. and Ivica Zubac, although they started Chris Dunn over Derek Jones Jr. on Saturday. I mean, you look at that, you squint, Terrence Mann came back after a month, 5 for 5, beautiful pass to Batum. So Mann, Batum, Kevin Porter Jr., one of Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn coming off the bench. I mean, that looks like a very, very, very good team, obviously on paper, because will Kawhi be able to play? I don't know. But again, I am not a medicine man. So who knows? Who knows? This team, the medical field there for the Los Angeles Clippers maybe knows better than we do. Obviously, they're trying to get Kawhi going extremely slowly in a different way. And he's not going to sit anymore in terms of, these long periods of play. Anyway, it's really hey, we'll see what happens in a couple months with this team. But they look so good. 20-15 to start this season. Over expectations. Definitely better than anybody expected. They're going to have a winning record for the 14th season in a row. A very odd stat, but they lead the league in the most consecutive winning seasons. Yeah. So we'll see them in the playoffs if Kawhi plays. I mean, you look at that lineup that I mentioned. Norman Powell's got to be a friggin' all-star the way he's playing, along with Harden. I mean, the lineup just checks all the boxes.
Only 19 minutes from Kawhi in his return, but what did you see from him, TK?
I think he looks skinny. That was the main thing that stuck out to me was at the start of the 23-24 season last year, Kawhi looked humongous. He played a lot of games. He did eventually go down with an injury, but the thing that stuck out to me was he looked much skinnier, and I wonder if that's true, or if I'm just seeing things that I haven't seen him play
in a while,
for such a long time, or did he decide to slim down a little bit to save his knees, since those have been a problem for the past 6 seasons or whatever it's been, but he's supposed to play tonight. That's good.
Yeah.
It's like a day-to-day thing, I feel like, with Kawhi Leonard. That's how it was in the playoffs. So the fact that they're 5 games over 500, I think, is super impressive. A lot of credit goes to Harden, Powell, and Ty Lue. Zubac, I think, has to be in the mix as well for a guy who's really driving their winning there. But now if Kawhi's able to stay healthy and shake the rust off, get back to playing like a top 10 guy like he always is. Anytime he's on the court, he looks like one of the best players, so I assume that'll be the case. They've got a chance. I'm with you, Tass. I think they could at least be a top 6 team.
All right, I'll go to our final winner of the weekend before we pivot to losers. On Friday night, CJ McCollum matched his career high with 50 points to lead the Pelicans to a 132-120 victory over the Zards. They snapped an 11-game losing streak. McCollum was lights out. He went 18 of 27 from the field. He hit 10 threes. It was the second time in CJ's career that he ordered a 50 burger and ate that. 13th time, if you count the playoffs, that CJ McCollum has eclipsed 40 points in a game, too. So he's got quite a number of those games. But here's the fun part about this host CJ McCollum night. Friday night was January 3rd. And for whatever reason, be it the stars, the moon, the tides, I don't know.
Okay.
January 3rd is for getting buckets, okay? January 3rd, 2021, Steph Curry dropped a career-high 62 points in a win. The next year, January 3rd, 2022, Trae Young scores a career-high 56 points. The next year, January 3rd, 2023, Giannis goes for a season-high 55 points. Still a huge number. And then the next year, January 3rd, 2023, Paolo Banchero scored a then career-high 43 points. He has since done a 50-burger earlier this year. That's 4 straight years, and now 5 with CJ McCollum going for 50 points. What is it about January 3rd? It's really weird that we have all of these career highs, which CJ McCollum tied, by the way, with that 50-point game.
Oh, and who can forget Bernard King going for 50 in 1981, Spencer Haywood going for 51 in 73, and Wilt Chamberlain going for 53 in 1965. I mean, January 3rd, you shake off the hangover, you're ready to play.
I think that's it.
Yeah, it's like January 1st, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, of course not.
Long night, January 2nd. Oh,
you're groggy.
Okay, let's get it ramped up. It's the start of the new year. Let's do something special. You go out and score 50-plus points.
New year, new me for these guys. Yeah. January 3rd. So CJ McCollum, what a game. Task going for 50 again.
There's a lot of scoring happening in the National Basketball Association. Bryce Sensabaugh of the Utah Jazz had a 30-plus, then 27 in Florida. They won in Orlando and in Miami, where Bryce Sensabaugh is from. Not a coincidence, I don't think. But yes, the January 3rd, who knows?
What is up now? January 3rd,
Good
for
day
sure.
for it.
All right, let's go to losers of the NBA weekend. We've teased this one a bunch of times. Trey, who you got here?
It's the Timberwolves. Lost 3 straight, 6 of their last 9, and they're just finding too many ways to lose right now. We didn't talk about it much on the drop, but The Timberwolves lost to the Celtics on Thursday. The big story from this one is that Anthony Edwards only had 15 points on 16 shots, and then in his post-game press conference, he was complaining about getting doubled and saying, yeah, I'm going to keep passing the ball, but man, I don't want to pass the ball. I'm 23.
What a line.
One of my favorite quotes. He's like, come on, man. I don't want to do that. He saw Devin Booker playing against Jokic. Nobody wants to get double teamed when they're 23.
Immediately what I thought, the Devin Booker summer runs where he's getting upset when he's getting doubled.
So I guess it was a good, the best part is like, yeah, it was a good brand of basketball, but I don't like it. Yeah, it was working. It didn't work. They lost. Saturday, though, against Detroit, Anthony Edwards, he got his shots up. 31 shots, scored a career high 53 points, just 2 assists to 6 turnovers, but the Timberwolves still lost because they cannot get everyone playing well at the same time. In the first half, it was the bench plus Julius Randle and Mike Conley gave up a huge run to start the second quarter. The starters battle back, get it close, and then to start the third quarter, the starters give up a 14-2 run. And that's just kind of been the story for the Timberwolves, a complete lack of consistency from game to game. First quarter effort, I think, is a problem. Tass mentioned Cade got a dunk right away in the first game, or in the first quarter against the Timberwolves. They got an alley-oop to Asar Thompson in the second minute of the game. That was ridiculous to see that happen. You look at what the team is right now, everybody has eyes on Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, but I think it's the guys who were there previously who are the problem. Mike Conley, it might be over. He's averaging 8 points a game, shooting 35% from the field, 36 from 3. Jaden McDaniels is a 3-and-D player who can't do it on either end right now. 31% from 3, and he got torched by Cade Cunningham in this one. Just looked too skinny against Cade, quite honestly. The replacements would be for Conley, a rookie point guard, and Rob Dillingham, or Dante DiVincenzo, who's not a point guard. The McDaniels replacements would be Terrence Shannon Jr., an old rookie, Josh Minot, an old development guy, or a smaller guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who then makes their team smaller, and you had Chris Finch complaining about getting crushed on the boards despite having Gobert, who keeps getting benched in these games. It's just hard to see where the improvement is because most of the players are just having down years comparatively. Gobert's been worse this season. Naz Reid is just fine, shooting like 37% from 3, which isn't 41%. That's just average. Mike Conley, like I said, is bad. Jalen McDaniels, he's not been very good either. It's like they're running out of guys. They have nothing left to trade. So maybe this is just a down season for Minnesota. They let Randall walk in the offseason, and they're able to have a little bit more flexibility going forward to really reorient the team around Anthony Edwards. That's not what you want to hear after going to the Western Conference Finals.
No.
But that might be the case.
Yeah, if you're making a poll, Tass, and you're including 3 or 4 teams, who's had the most disappointing year, as now we've hit 2025, you're including the Timberwolves at just 500, and a couple other teams, of course, come to mind. I know one that you're going to talk about here in the Phoenix Suns, but it's not great, and it's not inspiring, and like TK just took us through, it seems to be like, what are the answers to this, outside of doing the old fire your coach and get the new coach bump in here, which I do not.
Why not?
I do not think they're going to do with Chris Finch, but what do you think, Tass?
Yeah, it's odd with them because they are 500. They do have good performances. Like the Boston game was a good effort. The OKC game was a good effort. Then you see what they do against the Detroit Pistons, who are coming on a back-to-back, and they got the ball absolutely run down their throat by the Pistons, who are just a fun watch. That's what made it a fun game to watch. But from the Wolves side, it was painful. I think the only thing you can do is Dante DiVincenzo inserted over by Conley. I know it's odd because he isn't a traditional point guard, but Mike Conley, at this point, at 37 years of age, it might be time. He just doesn't look like himself. While DiVincenzo does sort of look like a point guard running the second unit at times, and he'll give Anthony Edwards what he wants in a way. Anthony Edwards just wants to be able to drive by his guy and go to the hoop. Dante DiVincenzo will attract defense because he's such a good three-point shooter, and he gets after it defensively. So I think it works with DiVincenzo because Anthony Edwards is playing a lot of point guard just because of his game. So I think that's the way to do things, although it's just hard to say because of game to game, they just don't seem on the same page. They'll get a good effort from some guys and good effort from Randall at times, who's having a really good season. Shoot 44% from 3. And the numbers, the assists are great, but then on the defensive end, he just won't do a lot. It seems like they just don't have a locker room that's all together at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't want to like overreact to a 3-game losing streak when you lost to OKC and you lost to the Celtics and then you lost to the red hot Pistons. Like, you don't want to go crazy about that, but yeah, it's not inspiring, this Minnesota team. And then like you add to that, you get these Anthony Edwards quotes that some people, I think, run with, and he's very talkative, and he shares his opinions, and maybe talks a little too much at times and gets himself in trouble. He's really real. I mean, he just says what he's thinking. Again, that's refreshing for us, but people then can take it and run with it in a million different directions. But we'll see if they
You can tell he's frustrated, though.
He's very frustrated.
The guy never dunks anymore. We haven't had a good Anthony Edwards dunk yet this season, have we?
Not that I can think of.
Because there's always guys there in the way.
Yeah, true. And I mean, he obviously, the three-pointer was falling falling a lot early in the season for him, and he was taking a whole bunch of them. I know it's ticked down a little bit, but they play the Clippers next here tonight, actually.
Yep.
Wolves and Clippers. All right, Tass, who's your loser of the weekend?
It's got to be the Phoenix Suns. They've lost 4 in a row, 7 of 8, 11 of 13, and their defense just looked very bad against the Indiana Pacers on Saturday, and there was no excuse for it. They were rested. They had 3 days off, and in the third quarter, the Pacers, who are playing extremely well right now, just ran them down. 40 points for the Pacers in that third quarter. Now the Suns are, one of the worst teams in the NBA in terms of defense. It's far worse than it was last season. This is the second season that they're all together, and somehow their defense isn't working. The offense has been okay, but now, just because of the lack of chemistry, apparently according to a Chris Haynes report, they're putting Yusuf Nurkic and Bradley Beal to the bench tonight because things aren't working all that well. It's just an odd situation because they're going to the bench, and Mason Plumlee, Ryan Dunn are starting, guys who started on Saturday because Tyus Jones was already out, and Yusuf Nurkic was also out because of a suspension, but Nurkic is supposed to come back. Nothing makes sense in Phoenix, and this might be a situation where Matt Ishbia says, all right, let's do it. Let's go get Bradley Beal, who, again, has a no-trade clause, and he may not be traded at all, but Matt Ishbia and the way he went and got Kevin Durant, demanded that it happen, could try and make a Bradley Beal get out of here type of deal for Jimmy Butler, if it's at all possible. Now, there are trades here. I'm looking at them now. Sam Vecini threw the Heat get Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler and Josh Richardson type of deal. Again, Beal has a no-trade clause. He just may not go, and I'm not exactly sure why the Heat would do that, considering how much money Bradley Beal has on for multiple years, and he ain't playing all the time. So it'd be very difficult for me to see that. So I kept going in the trade machine on Spotrac, and I looked at a 4-team deal involving the Nets, Pistons, Heat, and Suns that would get Beal out of Phoenix and get Jimmy Butler there, while Ben Simmons would go to the Heat, basically as an expiring deal because Ben Simmons isn't paid beyond this summer. And to me, that seems to be where the Miami Heat may end up. They may end up just being in a situation where, okay, we're almost in a way just cutting Jimmy Butler, because for the next few months they'd have somebody like Ben Simmons playing for them, but he'd be gone at the end of the season, or at least he'd be a free agent. It's an odd situation in Phoenix, especially just seeing that Booker, Beal, Durant played on Saturday. And it's so hard to see them get pummeled. They got pummeled by the Indiana Pacers again. Suns had days off. Now, like we just mentioned about the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Suns are losing to a lot of good teams. But in this situation, it highlights that their defense ain't all that great. Period. I mean, their defense, again, has dropped off since last season. Their offense is fine. But the Yusuf Nurkic thing, who doesn't play all the time, the Bradley Beal thing, who doesn't play all the time, I mean, they really have to sort of be on the same page to do a little bit more for their lack of defense. And that ain't happening with these guys.
Yeah, they've just they're running out of excuses.
Yes.
Because they just always have an excuse of why they're struggling and not living up to expectations. Okay, maybe it was the coach. Well, okay, they fired Vogel. Budenholzer comes in. Yeah, nothing's really changed, so it's not that. Oh, none of our guys ever play together. Our big three, they're never out there together. Yeah. Okay, now they are. We're still losing. You start just, it was the whole thing, well, when Durant was there, we win. And then, okay, he comes back, they're not. It's like they've lost 7 the last 8, so they're running out of excuses here. There's 80% of their payroll is 4 guys. It's Durant, it's Booker, it's Beal, and it's Nurkic. And now 2 of those guys are apparently going to come off the bench. I mean, kudos to Budenholzer for at least you got to try something. You got to switch it up a little bit, so maybe it works with Dunn and Plumlee, but it's not good, and they are definitely on the short list of most disappointing teams this year. Wolves, Suns, Kings. Find a fourth.
Pelicans.
Maybe, Pelicans at least have
Injuries,
somewhat of an excuse. These teams are running out of excuses.
Pacers are turning it around.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people. I was Suns over because I watched the Olympics. I thought it was awesome. Guess what? That's FIBA basketball. Doesn't matter. Also, the team was stacked. This Suns team is not. A lot of people had Mike Budenholzer, coach of the year.
Yeah.
They're worse on offense and worse on defense. He probably ain't going to do it. Yusuf Nurkic, I think they just got lucky last year. Nurkic played 76 games of pretty high-level basketball. He was good last year, and consequently, their defense was fine. Now he's already missed 10 games and looks like a shell of himself on the court. So probably long overdue that Plumlee is going to be getting the start for him. I don't know if it really changes their fortunes all that much. It's not like Plumlee is Rudy Gobert, prime Rudy Gobert out there. So we'll see. I do like the conspiracy theory that they're benching Bradley Beal so that he'll get so upset with the team that he'll waive his no trade clause, because that would be the biggest win the Suns could get right now is moving off the Beal deal, because he's not a needle mover for this team. He plays the same position as their two best guys, ball handler. So he's probably best suited for a Brooklyn team where he could go lead the league in scoring.
Yes. I don't believe it's going to be to the Miami Heat, for sure. I believe those reports saying, we don't want Bradley Beal, man. We're like, we got Tyler Hero. We got a better version, younger version, better contract version of Bradley Beal. We're fine. But yeah, does he get routed to a third or fourth team? I think it's very possible. We'll see. But man, you're right. All those things you said. I had Budenholzer for Coach of the Year. I was in on the Suns rebounding this year because of him and impressing, but they're just bad, and they're obviously so top heavy. And we'll see if this switch does anything. Yeah. Final loser of the weekend, I'm going to give it to Bam Adebayo. All right, to go full circle here, back to the Heat, because the last thing you want to happen amidst trade rumors is for your sort of second best guy, when your guy's been suspended in Jimmy Butler, your other all-NBA guy, your other all-star, to put up a dud, and for your team to get absolutely shellacked at home. And that's what happened. We brought it up a couple times here. The Heat lost on Saturday night to the Utah Jazz. Bryce Sensabaugh scoring 34 points. They got beat by 36. Sixth largest home loss in Heat history. So this was that bad. I saw Brendan Tobin on Twitter tweet, suspend the Heat for conduct detrimental to the fan base. Fair. 7-game suspension for the entire team. But the worst part was that no-show from Bam Adebayo. He went 0 for 6 from the floor in this game. They got outscored by 24 points in his minutes. His season averages are bottom of the barrel now. They're 16.1 points per game. He's shooting 45.6%. Those are some Nurkic-like numbers. I think those two guys as centers or bigs are the worst in the league in terms of number of field goals to that percentage. 45.6, that's not bad for a guard. That's not good for your big man. Shocking regression, and not again, when you have all these trade rumors going around, you don't want your second best guy or your third best guy, wherever you put Hero. He's played better for sure. That's rough. So I don't know what's going on with Bam.
He doesn't have much of an offensive game right now. There's no go-to move that he has. There's nothing that you would point at and say, this is really Bam Adebayo's strength. He's a good ball mover, I think, kind of like Horford was for the Hawks back in the day. He does have a decent mid-range. I always like it when he grabs and goes, brings the ball up the court, but it doesn't seem like he's very confident offensively right here, and they need him to be a good offensive player, because outside of Tyler Hero, he's kind of got to be the guy other than hot three-point shooting. So yeah, I went and saw the Hawks play the Heat a couple of weekends ago, and my kids started calling him Moldy Bam Saw Ankle.
What?
And that's what I'm going to call him while he's playing poorly.
Moly.
I don't know. Moldy Bam Saw Ankle?
That is the biggest diss I've ever heard, but it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense why they're saying it 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Wow.
Did they like it because it sounds like buzzsaw?
I don't know. I got no idea.
I mean, Moldy Bam works too. I don't know.
It's being a Moldy Bam right now.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, he's been bad. And he just signed a huge extension.
Well,
and you're seeing people be like, uh-oh. You don't want to fall off a cliff immediately after signing the extension.
No. And now, especially with Jimmy Butler out of the picture here, even more falls on his shoulders, and it's going to continue to do so. So hopefully that's just one of those games you throw away, and it was really bad. That's one of the worst Bam games I can remember. I mean, you probably got to go back 5 years longer, I don't know, to find a game where he didn't even hit a field goal. And not even taking a lot at that. So, yeah, there it is. Bam Adebayo. To make a full circle back to the Heat, we'll call it there with our winners and losers. We should get off the air because you never know when a Jimmy Butler trade is going to happen. But Tass, you are 1-0 in the January pick 'em battle. You and Esh got Friday's game, correct? What's our game tonight, though?
Oh, I'm wearing the Canada mittens. We got the Hockey Night Canada theme
got a
song.
toucan.
We got everything is right. I'm just waiting for some weather. I mean, it's absolutely just pleasant out here. Somehow, the weather gods blessed us because there was a storm last night. It was extremely. I woke up in the middle of the night, hearing the rain and the thunder. But now it's all cleared up. Apparently, yeah, we'll get cold. We'll get more Canada-like later this week, starting tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you're going to be very cold tomorrow.
Oh, I will be complaining. I will definitely be wearing a snood. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Anyway, tonight's game, we talked about Phoenix Suns. Now they got to go to Philadelphia, where Philadelphia is favored by 3.5. So Philly just got to win by 4 or more. I like that line. I think you're with me, Skeets.
Yep.
And Trey and Esh think that Phoenix can at least lose by 3 or win this game.
Switching up that starting lineup.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's either gonna it's that one's a tough one. I always struggled with this one because I'm like, on one hand, like, all right, that'll fire up the guys, shake things up, you get done in there.
Plumlee.
Yeah, plum dog. But then on the other hand, it's like, ooh, we've gotten to this point where we're now sitting 2 of our most expensive guys and bring them off the bench like this. Ooh, maybe it goes really badly. And the Sixers are playing better basketball.
They definitely are.
That's a part of the
Yeah.
equation here. So you're going Suns though.
Yeah, I think I lost on Friday I think the Knicks were
We took the
a
Knicks.
dog on the road,
Yeah.
right? So this will
Yeah.
be my last time if it doesn't go the right way. We do have a big NHL game, big Canada matchup. Canucks versus Canadiens.
Ooh.
-1.5 for the Canucks on the
Goals.
road ice.
Damn.
Literally, okay, I'm looking at BetMGM. Literally every line for every
Is
hockey
1.5.
game tonight is plus or minus 1.5. Every single one.
That's like baseball. I feels like that too. Like difference in lines.
Will a team win by 1 or 2? What's it gonna be?
Yeah. Wow. Who do you like tonight? Canucks or Canadians, Tass?
Gotta go Canadien. I must. I have no idea. I can't believe Canada lost in the World Juniors.
Oh, I can. Yeah.
What?
The States won for the second year in a row. Congratulations.
That's amazing.
Finally,
Yeah.
the tide has turned.
Yeah, I know. That's impressive. Yeah. All right. We'll end on that note. I want to remind everyone, though, tonight on Playback, Tass will be inside for this. We will be on Playback around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The link is in the show notes. Join our Playback room. Jumping around the second half of the earlier starts and then maybe seeing where the rest of the schedule goes. Lots of games on tonight. So join us on Playback. We did it yesterday. A little surprise playback there for that very entertaining Celtics Thunder game. And doing it again tonight. Tass working the remote control. All right, Tass. Well, I do believe this will be your balmiest day outside.
Oh,
So-
so the wind is picking up as we
Wow.
end our show.
Wow.
It's literally gusting.
I love where we have set you up, by the way. Do
Yeah.
you think you'll go through that door behind you at some point?
Yeah, is this the door for the set? Do I walk through this every morning?
Very weird setup we have. You just recycling buckets thrown around or whatever those
Yes,
are.
I do love recycling.
Okay, great. Well, Tass will be outside once again tomorrow, but hopefully we'll see you on Playback tonight. Until then, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, it's getting colder here in Atlanta where we record. So join us again tomorrow where I will be cold.
That jacket will be zipped up. Guaranteed. Embrace the day, people.